Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you're all doing well. It's just gone 12:30 here in the UK. It's a little bit chilly outside. I've even had to close the window in this room. I've had that window open for weeks now. I've had to close it. It's a little bit chilly. However, we're here to talk about Delphi. I haven't talked about Delphi for a while. There's a bunch of trial transcripts that have come out that I've been looking at. I've been trawling through. I've picked out some interesting testimony that I want to talk about in future live streams. So I'm going to start a mini series called the Delphi Files, and that'll be over on Michelle Walks. And I'll start that maybe in the next couple of days. I've got a few pieces, like mainly like things like the phone data, eyewitnesses, those kind of witnesses I want to go through. But today we're talking about Elvis Fields. Now, the click report has already come out. If you remember, cast your mind back to September of 2023 when the defense released the 136-page Frank's memorandum, and it I couldn't believe what I was reading. Like, I read it all in lives for the first time. Like, I'd not looked at it previous. I just read it, and I was gobsmacked, absolutely gobsmacked by some of that information. So the Odinists from that time became chief suspects in the minds of a lot of people, including me. I don't think the Odinists are the only suspects that are more likely to have committed the murders than Richard Allen. Certainly more evidence against them. Yet, during Richard Allen's trial, Judge Gull denied the defence the opportunity to do an alternate suspect's defence. She denied it. Why did she deny it? She said there was no nexus, no connection between the people that they wanted to talk about as potential alternate suspects, to just make the jury aware that there were a lot of other people with more evidence against them than Rick Allen. But no, Judge Gull would not allow it. They weren't even allowed to mention the names of the alternate suspects. They weren't even allowed to utter their names, even under their breath. They weren't allowed, because Nick McClelland, the slickness himself, what did he do in one of the pre-trial motions? Well, he said, we don't want these people mentioned. And Judge Gull said, yes, of course, Nick, we don't want these people mentioned. So that's where we were at. So we've already read the click report, but this is the Murphy report. So it's 12 pages. We're going to read it, and it's all about Elvis Fields. Well, it's mainly about Elvis Fields. And there's some details in here that we know, but there's some details in here that certainly I didn't know before reading this. And Todd Click, who is undergoing his own legal struggles at the moment, but Todd Click, Greg Ferenczi, and Kevin Murphy were the three officers, the three law enforcement officials who investigated the Odinists. They started investigating the Odinists through, it was looking at gang involvement, and then it came up that there was connections between these potential gang members that they were investigating and the Delphi murders. So they went all out. They went all out to investigate these people, the three of them. And they were giving their information that they were finding to Unified Command, but Unified Command did absolutely nothing about it. Zero, zilch. But that investigation into the Odinists went on until the murder of Greg Ferenczi. Once Greg Ferenczi was murdered, that's it. The investigation petered out. But after Richard Allen's arrest and the release of the probable cause affidavit, Todd Click was so concerned that he went to see Jerry Holman and said, look, have you seen our investigation into the Odinists? And he said, and nothing was done. They'd already got their man. Richard Allen was it. Richard Allen was the man that they framed. For whatever reason, we could speculate on a whole bunch of reasons why people like Brad Holder and Elvis Fields and Patrick Westfall weren't properly investigated. Ron Logan, why was he not considered a prime suspect? We've got all of these questions that still remain, while Rick Allen is imprisoned for 130 years. So Rick Allen has been moved out of state. He's now in the Oklahoma Department of Corrections. Apparently, and I've just seen this on Twitter, I've seen this being discussed on Twitter. Apparently, Rick Allen wants to go into general population. Maybe he wants more than being in solitary confinement all the time. And I'm not saying that this has been confirmed. I'm just saying this is what is being said. That Rick Allen wanted to go into general population, but they didn't feel that it was safe enough to allow him into Gen Pop in Indiana. But moving him out of state, where less people know him, there would be perhaps the opportunity for him to have more contact with humans rather than being on his own all the time, which kind of makes sense. So Rick Allen has been transferred this week, and he's put on a bit of weight. I'll give him that. He's put on a little bit of weight, but he's not looking well. This is Rick Allen right now. This is Rick Allen. This is what he looks like. So got a new mugshot when he entered Oklahoma Department of Corrections. And that is one very sad looking man. Very sad looking man. According to his intake details, he has put on a little bit of weight. Let's have a look here. Hold on. So, is this the one? Has his weight on? No, probably not. No, it's not. But anyway, there is one. Maybe it's the other one. This one, perhaps. Well, I have seen it anyway, and maybe I've just not saved that screenshot. But he's up to 175 pounds now. So he was down to about 140, but he's up to 175 now. So he's put on some weight. He's clearly eating again, and yeah. What have they done to this guy? What have they done to him? What have they done? Yeah, it is very unjust. Very unjust. Anyway, let's say a couple of hellos. Give people a chance to come in. I appreciate that it's very early for a lot of people, but people can watch this on the replay. I'm doing it early because of Brian Koberger's sentencing, which is happening later today. I was going to stream it, but I've decided not to. I've got to go out, and it coincides with the first hour. So I'm going to miss the first hour. So there's no point me streaming it if I start streaming in the second hour. It doesn't make sense. And it's going to go on all day, which takes it up past midnight for me. So I'll be replay crew for the first hour, but I'll be able to catch up because I can watch it on 2x speed. And then I'll be watching it live. So I'm not streaming it. But once the files start to be released from Idaho, now the gag order's been lifted, and once the sentencing is over, then they are going to be releasing files from Idaho. So we'll be doing Idaho videos as well as going through Delphi files. We'll also be going through the Idaho files. So we got a lot to do. There's a lot coming up in true crime news. But anyway, let's have a see who's in the house. We got Saul. We got Miss Kitty. Let's see if you can make this one. I hope you did. Hello, we are Dust. We've got MFW. Good morning to you. A holographic experience. Hello, CW. Stardust Shorty. Purple hologram. Let's have a look. Broken Goth Doll. Charging up wireless headphones. We got Windy Weather. Yeah, hit the subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. I'm nearly up to 93,000 subscribers. Trying to get to 100 by the end of this year. So I've got 5 months left. I think I can do it with your help. I've even got a little video. Do you wanna see it? I thought I'd do that. I can put it at the end of videos and things to remind people to subscribe and help me out. All right. I like doing these little pieces. Hello, Rob. Who else have we got here? We got Evil, Edna, great name, Teresa, Journey Takes a Trip, Kales, Queen of Ravens, Paper Chaser. We got a few people in. All right. Without further ado, let's get on with the Murphy report. But first, I've not had the opportunity to play this for a little while, so bear with me.
It's time for you guys to start being journalists.
Before an angry Andrew Baldwin left the courthouse, 13 News overheard him speaking to Richard Allen's wife, saying, "It ain't over. The world's watching. The world sees what's going on."
There we are. Not played that for a while. Been on the back burner with Delphi, but we are back. We are back with the Delphi content. Paper Chaser, member for 33 months. Whoop, whoop. And also, thank you for liking the video. Also, Stardust Shorty, also a member for 33 months. Whoop, whoop. All right, without further ado, let us read this. So this is Kevin Murphy's investigation. So 12 pages. Let me just get rid of all these windows that I've opened up because they annoy me. Okay. All right. Delphi supplemental report. This is relating to Elvis Fields and the investigation into Elvis Fields. Some of this we've known, because it came up in the Franks memorandum and has been talked about a lot. But there's some of this where I certainly didn't know some of the information in here. And it's very concerning, incredibly concerning. All right. So we start off in January 2018. So a few months after the murders, nearly a year actually after the murders, with an interview with Mary Jacobs, who is one of the sisters of Elvis Fields. And she was interviewed by ISP troopers Murphy and Purdy. Jacobs stated that on February 14th, 2017, so this is the day after the murders, right? Abby and Libby were found around 12:15 p.m. on February 14th. So the news, as the girls being found and being reported, that they've been brutally murdered, had not come out yet when this all happened. So Jacob stated that on February 14th, 2017, she picked up Elvis at his trailer park and took him back to her house. The purpose of this was Elvis going to work on Jacob's vehicle engine. Jacob says that Elvis was rambling, hyper, and borderline incoherent. Elvis was talking about having a brother and being part of a gang now. He stated to Mary, his sister, that he was on a bridge with two girls that were killed. Remember, this was not knowledge. The public did not know this then. And it wasn't like Elvis was living in Delphi and maybe has heard it on the grapevine. Elvis lived like 100 miles away in Rushville. So how on earth would Elvis Fields have known that two girls were murdered next to a bridge? How would he know that unless he was actually there? Like, is he psychic or something? Did he have a spirit box that was particularly tuned in? Or what? No. Tells her Abigail was a pain in the ass and a troublemaker. So he even knew the name of one of them. Even knew the name. She said Elvis tried to give her a blue jacket he had in his possession. She was unaware of any missing or murdered girls and refused to take the jacket, telling him she had her own jackets. So she didn't know anything about two girls going missing and then, a few hours later being found. It's 100 miles away from where they were living. It wasn't public knowledge yet. Dear God. Anyhow, we move on. Elvis is interviewed. February 2018. Troopers Holman and Murphy. So Jerry Holman and Kevin Murphy interview Elvis Fields at Rushville PD based on the information that his sister has brought to the fore. Elvis denied being in any part of the murders. He consented to a DNA swab taken by Murphy. Elvis ends the interview stating he's tired and wants to go home. Murphy drops Elvis at his residence in his trailer park. Elvis exits the car and starts walking towards his trailer. Elvis then turns around and comes back to Murphy's car. Elvis asks Murphy if his spit is found on one of the girls, but he could explain it away, would he still be in trouble? Now, we've heard that these things were in the memorandum. So we've known this information since September of 2023. Elvis Fields' phone. A record check shows that Elvis's cell phone sits on a tower closest to his residence. So when he's at home, it's connecting to the closest tower. It is not used stroke active from 10:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. on the day of the murders. The phone is then used to call AutoZone in Rushville several times. So we know that this phone, during the entirety almost of February 13th, 2017, Elvis's phone is at home and doesn't move. Okay. Elvis is interviewed again on June 20th, 2018 at Rushville PD. Elvis this time is interviewed by Ferenczi and Murphy, Greg Ferenczi. Elvis states he was not in Delphi on 2/13/17, states he was in Rushville, claims some of his unusual Facebook posts are just decorations, and he likes to he likes to make. So all of the Odinist stuff that he was putting on his Facebook at the time, like emulating Brad Holder, copying Brad Holder, he said were just decorations. Okay. Elvis tells the interviewers that he's not in a gang. Gangs were never mentioned by the interviewers. It's almost like he was told to say that he wasn't in a gang, even though they didn't even bring it up. Interesting. Elvis agrees to take a polygraph, but then a few days later, a lawyer contacts Murphy stating stating that any more contact with Elvis must go through her. So it turns out that Elvis got away with doing a polygraph. He said he'd do one. Then maybe somebody got him a lawyer who said, shut up. No, you're not doing a polygraph. Keep your mouth shut. Say nothing. Holman did ruin this investigation. He wasn't the only one, but he was one of the big ones. Who works at AutoZone? I don't know. Do not know. Interesting it's put in the report, though. All right, so some of this I did not know. This is some information I did not know. Now, maybe you knew, but I didn't know this. Ferenczi and Murphy then interviews Elvis's family members. An ex-girlfriend and a mother of Elvis Jr. I didn't even know that Elvis had kids. Like, who would have a kid with him? But anyway, there is a couple of kids. One is called Elvis Jr. So the mother of Elvis Jr. says that Elvis was fascinated with railroad trestles. He tries to get her to cross one near their residence several times. So it would make sense that he would like the Monon High Bridge. It's iconic, isn't it? Iconic. So if he likes railroad trestles, then that's a good place for him to visit, even though it's 100 miles away. He's also got a daughter called Tiffany. She stated that Elvis became enraged when he found out she was having a child with a Hispanic male. She also states that she was at Elvis's apartment once, where he lived in Connorsville. He claims there were demons in his closet. He then ran outside with a knife, yelling on the street he would kill any African American that they saw. Tiffany recalls that her mom was upset that Elvis had money to go to Lafayette, Indiana, but no money to pay child support. So Elvis has got demons in his closet. He's clearly racist. That his daughter had a child. So he's got a grandchild who is half Hispanic. But he's as racist as they come. He's going to go out and kill African Americans and hates Hispanics. Well, doesn't that sound like Patrick Westphal? Patrick Westphal saying that, black bears don't breed with polar bears. And Spanish people are not allowed in his gang. Only Europeans are allowed in his gang, not Spanish people. Obviously, Patrick Westphal doesn't have a good grasp of geography and doesn't understand that Spain is in Europe, so Spanish people are Europeans. But only certain Europeans are allowed in Patrick Westphal's gang. So Elvis has the same mentality as Westphal. Okay. August 8th, 2018. Interview of Joyce Moffat, who is Elvis's other sister. So he's got Mary and he's got Joyce. In October 2017, Elvis moves into the residence of his sister Joyce Moffett in Dunkirk, Indiana. Approximately 2 weeks after moving in, Elvis approaches Joyce out of the blue and tells her he was on a trail and bridge with 2 girls that were killed and that he was going away for a long time. So he told his sister Mary on the 14th of February, before this was common knowledge, that he was on the bridge with 2 girls that were killed. One of them was a troublemaker called Abigail. And then a few months later, he starts talking to his other sister about being on the bridge with 2 girls that were killed, and he's going away for a long time. In regards to the above statement, Joyce first denied any knowledge of Elvis telling her the above. Then she started repeating what she'd heard her sister tell us. Joyce then challenged us to make Elvis take a polygraph, and then you will know. When we told her Elvis had so far declined to take a polygraph, she began crying. She then yelled out and apologized to her deceased father and gave above statement. So she then started talking. Blissful, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. That's very kind of you. Thank you, thank you. We've got Ali, True Crime Snoopy, Rachel, Kaza, and Ashley. Welcome, you 5. Welcome, welcome. If you've not been a member before, please go and check out the members area. If you have been a member before, go and check it out anywhere. There's a bunch of stuff in there. Bunch of stuff. All right. Well, we've now got an interview with Elvis's ex-wife. So not only did 2 people agree to have children with him, one of them agreed to marry him. Dear God. Dear God. So this is someone called Jennifer Melton, who was interviewed by phone in August 2018. I didn't know this either. Didn't know this. Jennifer states she was married to Elvis for 8 years. They had 2 children, Jason and Tiffany. So he's got 3 children. So he's got Elvis Jr. with an ex-girlfriend, and then he's got Jason and Tiffany with Jennifer, this ex-wife. Dear God. She stated Elvis was constantly abusive towards her and the kids. His abuse got worse towards her after the kids were born. She states Elvis chased Jason out of the house with a shotgun when Jason was 19 years old. When Tiffany was 16 years old, she had to pick her up from Elvis's house because he was outside her residence with a knife, yelling he would kill any African American. So that's what Tiffany also said. So Tiffany's only 16 when she witnesses her dad going crazy outside with a knife, threatening to kill African Americans. Daughter of Scotland, my eldest neighbour, member for 47 months. That's insane. That's nearly 4 years. 4 years. And Mimi, thank you for joining. Welcome to the Secret Agents Club. Go and check out the members area. Who wrote this? This is the Murphy report. This is the report that Kevin Murphy put together. This is like a summary of his investigation into Elvis Fields. She stated that Tiffany suffered a spinal fracture of her arm while under the care of Elvis and his parents. So we don't know whether that was caused by Elvis or his parents, or whether they were just negligent. Don't know. Jennifer said that Elvis was diagnosed with schizophrenia, which would make sense if he says that there's demons living in his closet. You know, there's an issue there. There's a mental issue there. Schizophrenia makes sense. But he rarely took his meds as prescribed. He would go nuts when not on meds. Tiffany recalls that one time she locked him out of the house after he battered her. She remembers him yelling at her that he was going to kill her when he got back in. And this is his own daughter. this is his own daughter. So this is a violent man. Let's not be, two bones about it. This is a violent man. He batters his own children. He threatens them. He says he's going to kill them. He's severely dysfunctional. And he's a terrible racist. It doesn't bode well, does it? Dear God. She remembers he was in possession of a knife at the time of the incident. When asked if Elvis ever carried a weapon on him, she stated, he carries a boot knife. I don't know what a boot knife is. Is it similar to a box cutter? I honestly don't know what a boot knife is. I'm going to look it up. Boot knife. Boot knife. Okay. So I'm not quite like a box cutter. Ultimate guide to boot knives. Interesting. Okay, so like a little, I see. Like a little knife that you can keep in your, could keep it in your boot, couldn't you? It's like a smaller version of a care bar. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Jennifer stated that she found it odd early in the relationship that Elvis and his mother, this is sick. This is sick. That Elvis and his mother would go to the bathroom together. She claims Joyce told her years ago that Elvis's mother would perform oral sex on him when he was a young child. Obviously, that's hearsay, but that is some sick info right there. She doesn't recall which city Elvis was going to regarding whatever's been redacted here, just that it was north of Indianapolis. She said Elvis owns guns and that they're all rifles. She never saw any handguns. She stated that Elvis was an accomplished fisherman and hunter. He would often spend long periods of time in the woods. She heard after their divorce he would camp and live in the woods when he was homeless. So I don't think he'd have problems like, going through creeks and going up hills and stuff like that. All right. Mary Jacobs records Elvis Fields. August 31st, 2018. Prior to August 31st, 2018, Elvis and Mary had only spoken one other time since February 14th, 2017. This was in April of 2017. On August 31st, 2018, Mary picked up Elvis walking along the road in Rushville. Mary had previously purchased an audio recorder several months earlier. She turned on the recorder when Elvis got in her vehicle. Elvis was unaware of the recording. They drive to Elvis's trailer and Mary goes inside. Joyce is present. So we got two sisters together who've both been told that by him that he was on a bridge with two girls that were killed, and we got Abigail the troublemaker, right? 28 minutes into the conversation, Mary brings up their February 14th, 2017 conversation. She asked Elvis if he remembers giving her a blue jacket and her giving it back, saying that she did not want it. Elvis acknowledges this. Mary mentions that the police have been to her house to ask her questions about Elvis' possible involvement in the Delphi murders. Elvis says he's tired of people accusing him of being involved in the Delphi murders. He then says, like I told them, what are you going to do? Dig up the ground where I took a piss and say, oh yeah, we got him. Okay. So Is he saying that he was in the woods where the murders took place and he took a piss and did have to dig up that area to know that he was actually there? I don't really understand what he's meaning by that. Note, Elvis never had this conversation or gave this statement in either of his interviews. Mary brings up their actual conversation. Elvis denies remembering what they said and says he has to leave and depart from the trailer because he's been told to keep his mouth shut. By this time, right, somebody has gotten him a lawyer who has said that all conversations have got to go through her, and she stopped him doing a polygraph. So someone's obviously got him a lawyer, and he's coaching him. So this recording was too late. He'd already been got at this point. Elvis Fields has numerous Facebook pages. One, on his current page, he has a limit of 5,000 friends. Approximately 75% of these friends are young Filipino and Asian girls. Okay, so he doesn't like Hispanic people. He doesn't like African American, but he's happy to chat with Filipino and Asian girls. Okay, weird. All right. Let's talk about Rod Abrams. This is Elvis's friend. Rod was living with Elvis on February 13th, 2017. Elvis and Rod worked for Ned Smith, where he has a paving business. He was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon, a knife, in Osceola County, Florida, in January of 1998, so a few years previous. Abrams was interviewed by Murphy and Ferenczi on August 29th, 2018. Abrams was agitated that we were talking to him at first, but calmed down. He stated that Ned Smith, Elvis and himself were in Muncie, Indiana, visiting a sick friend. So this was in the Frank's memorandum. So we knew this story. We knew, and it's a lie. It's a lie, but anyway. So they were in Muncie. When asked if Elvis had his cell phone on him, Rod said yes. Well, we know that's a lie. So either the lying about being in Muncie or lying that Elvis had his phone on him, because they've already ascertained from Elvis's cell phone records that his phone was at home. It was on, it was active, but it didn't move between 10:30 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. on February 13th. Almost like he wasn't in and he'd left his phone at home. Maybe he'd left his phone at home because he didn't want to be tracked. When asked if he had his cell phone on him while in Muncie, he states yes. When told that we would check cell phone records to see if they were at a Muncie hospital, Abrams stated that hospitals cut cell reception on phones because they interfere with hospital equipment. Well, we know that's not true. People used to be told that, though, but it isn't true. So the phones probably would not show that they were in a hospital in Muncie. Yeah, but they would show that they were in Muncie. They might, even if this was true, which it isn't, right? It would still show that they were pinging off towers in Muncie, you know, as they were approaching the hospital and as they were leaving the hospital. We've also got someone that I've never heard of before, someone called Robert Thomas. Now, I've never heard of this name. We don't know very much about him, but this is someone else, another name. This is Elvis's neighbour. Robert Thomas lives at 201 North Robinson Street, Delphi, Indiana. So this is the connection between Elvis and Delphi. Like, we were looking for a connection between Elvis and Delphi. Well, here it is. So the neighbour, Robert Thomas, who was a neighbour at Elvis's trailer park, also spent some time living in Delphi. Thomas moved from Delphi back to Rushville Thanksgiving of 2015, died of an overdose on 9/03/2016 in the Rushville trailer. So obviously that was before the murders. So Robert Thomas himself is not involved in the murders. However, what it does do is it gives that connection between Elvis and Delphi. According to friends and family interviewed, this needs severely grammar checking. But according to friends and family of Robert, he let friends and family from Rushville stay at the Delphi house. It's unknown if Elvis ever stayed there. I bet you any money that he did. I bet you any money that he did. But there's the connection. So Robert Thomas isn't involved. He died before the murders. But there's the link between the potential for Elvis to know Delphi because perhaps he went to stay at Robert Thomas's house in Delphi. Photos of tattoos obtained from prior Elvis arrests in Rush County. Many show white supremacy type symbols. And that brings us on to Brad Holder, who is the other connection between Elvis Fields and these people from Rushville. So he lives in Logansport, which is only down the road from Delphi. His son, Logan Holder, was dating Abby. We know this. Holder served in the US Army with Patrick Westfall. Both were deployed to Afghanistan. They practice asatru and are very devout to it. Well, we know that Patrick is. Brad, not so much. Brad was more of a follower rather than a leader. Formed an asatru tribe called the Tribe of Gungnir's Path. I never know how to say that. Gungnir, maybe. Gungnir is Odin's magical spear with Patrick Westfall. Patrick Westfall was the leader of this gang. Yeah, Logansport is like 20 minutes drive from Delphi. It's not very far. It's down the road. And we have that link between Brad Holder and Abby Williams because Logan Holder was her boyfriend at the time of the murders. And we know that Brad Holder denied knowing Abby, even though his son was going out with Abby. And then he admitted that he'd seen her once. Then he admitted that he'd seen her at Patrick Westfall's house. So there was definitely a link between Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, and Abby Williams. We also know that Abby and Libby were potentially targets of these ridiculous racists who believe that black bears shouldn't breed with polar bears. And we know from the Frank's memo that one of their family members, so one of Abby and Libby's family members, was dating outside of her race, which is not allowed. So can you imagine if it's found out that Abby's family member is dating someone outside of their race, and now she's sullying the Holders by dating Logan? Can you imagine that might be, to these weird racist people, that might be concerning to them? They might have to do some kind of cleansing ritual to stop that. I don't know. Holder makes his own Viking-style knives and weapons, takes pictures of sticks, trees, and natural formations in the woods that he believes in is God Odin talking to him. So Odin talks to him. All right. Also, arranges sticks into Asatru-style symbols and runes. Many of these that are posted on his Facebook page are very similar to the Delphi crime scene. They are. They absolutely are. Travels to Delphi often to practice Asatru with Westfall, because at the time of the murders, Patrick Westfall is living in Delphi. So we've got the link between Patrick Westfall, Brad Holder, and Abby Williams. Patrick living right there in Delphi at the time. Then we've got a link between Brad Holder and the people from Rushville. But now we've got a potential link between Elvis Fields and someone who lived in Delphi, someone that Elvis knew who lived in Delphi, and potentially Elvis would have known Delphi through this guy, Robert Thomas, who'd already died. Okay. He often brought Logan with him. During one of these Asatru meetings, Logan met Abby at the Canal Path in Delphi. According to Logan's statement, this meeting took place the second weekend of January 2017. So a month before they were murdered. Holder was a Vinlander hangaround, not a formal member or probate. He was a follower. Facebook post dated January 22nd, 2017, with Westfall in Delphi. Claims he was at work and got off between 2 and 4 p.m. That was on the day of the murders. That's why Judge Gull doesn't believe there's a nexus between Brad Holder and the murders, because he is judged to have been at work during the time when the murders took place. But we don't know when the murders took place. We know when Abby and Libby were on the bridge and when they were taken off the bridge, but we don't know what time they were murdered. He states he then went to Anytime Fitness, says he got a text from Logan at an unknown time on 2/13/2017, simply saying she's missing. Other known Facebook page names Steve Rogers. So he also calls himself Steve Rogers on Facebook. Okay, so what's the connection with Elvis Fields and Brad Holder? Well, Elvis mimics various and numerous Facebook posts that are on Holder's Facebook page. But Elvis wants to be a member of this gang, right? So when we get to Johnny Messer, it kind of makes sense. Logan Holder. Logan was 16 on February 13th, 2017. Thank you, Carol, for gifting £2. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Claims he was Abby's boyfriend and that they spoke every day per social media messaging. States he was introduced to Abby by Libby in December of 2017. They met once in Canal Park the second week of January 2017. Patrick Westfall, served in the US Army with Holder, combat duty in Afghanistan, on disability for PTSD, lives in Delphi, has prior Flora, Indiana address. Oh, yes. And isn't it concerning that the Flora girls who were murdered, guess who also has links with Flora and who's a rabid racist? Oh, Patrick Westfall, who used to live just down the road from the Flora girls, who all died in a suspicious fire. That also has never been solved, by the way. Yeah. Practices Asatru, claims to be a type of priest for it. So he's illuminated himself up to the status of a priest. He's not a follower, he's a leader. And he knows that black bears should not be breeding with polar bears. Okay. Member of the tribe of the Gungnir Path Withholder. Appears Withholder approximately 10 times in photos Withholder prior to 2/13/2017. He appears in none after 2/13/2017. States he's often in the woods around the Monon High Bridge with kids. Like he has kids himself, so knows the woods really well. Has a video on Facebook cutting down ash trees in the dark with a chainsaw. Note, one of the sticks on Abby had a clean, straight, saw-type cut. States on 2/13/17 he was home with his son all day. States they were going to join the search party on 2/14/2017, but the girls were found prior to them arriving. Vinlander probate on 2/13/2017. Other known Facebook page names, Jaeger Turson, Patrick Donovan. Claims he's some type of Asatru priest or holy man. Then we get to Johnny Messer, and Johnny Messer is the glue that hangs all of these people together. And Johnny Messer is a very violent man, and I mean a very violent man. Currently on home detention in Rushville on meth-related charges, Fourth Amendment waiver, Vinlander probate with Westfall on 2/13/2017. He was friends with both Holder and Westfall on 2/13/2017. Claims he does not speak with them now. Interesting. Claims he was kicked out of the Vinlanders for fist fighting with the Indiana leader, Mickey McKinley. He knows Elvis Fields, states Elvis lived with his uncle, and he would bring them firewood because the residence they lived in had no power. So Johnny Messer is seen on these white supremacist marches with Patrick Westfall. Patrick Westfall and Johnny Messer have been photographed together. So they're closely aligned. So we've got Messer, who's the glue that holds them all together. He knows Elvis Fields, also knows Patrick Westfall, and then Patrick Westfall knows Brad Holder. So they all connect. They all connect. Elvis claims he does not know Holder, Westfall, or Messer. Okay. States that they might know me, but I don't know them. Messer claims to have an SOS stomp on sight out on him. Jesus Christ. So, a stomp on sight out on him from the Vinlanders due to the fight with McKinley. Denies being in Delphi on 2/13/17 or driving Elvis to Delphi. Denies ever being in Delphi. Of course he does. States Holder would attend social functions and meetings at McKinley's house in Indianapolis. Says Holder defecated. What? Says Holder defecated on McKinley's couch and went outside of McKinley's house with a gun and started yelling that he hated African Americans. Jesus Christ. Holder was brought back into the house and beat up by McKinley. Messer states he's not into the Asatru religion. Messer has a mixed child with an African American woman. He claims the Vinlanders had no problem with this. Well, Patrick Westfall has a problem with this. And I'm sure that Elvis Fields would have a problem with it as well. Claims that Holder is a little weird and could be capable of harming someone, but Westfall would not be capable of the murders. Messer said the only active members of the Vinlanders in Indiana were McKinley as well as Westfall and himself as probates. But you see, Westfall has his own little group, the Gungnir gang. Right, so Westfall created his own group. So it didn't get on well with the Vinlanders, Brad Holder didn't get on with the Vinlanders because he defecated on McKinley's couch. Jesus Christ. So they created their own little club. They had their own little gang. So they don't need the Vinlanders. Now we've got Taylor Hornaday. She's the ex-girlfriend of Johnny Messer, and she has a lot to say about this. She's another whistleblower. You know, like Elvis's sisters are whistleblowers. Well, Taylor Hornaday is also a whistleblower. So they were together on 2/13/2017, interviewed first on October 25th, 2018 by Todd Click from the Rushville PD. Taylor states that Messer told her that the police had questioned him regarding the Delphi murders and that we would probably be calling her for an interview. She said Messer had a stomp on sight on him by the Vinlanders. I've never heard that term before, stomp on sight. You're going to stomp him on sight. She was tired of him hanging out with them so much and not her. She told McKinley about a mixed-race child that Messer had fathered with an African-American woman. This is against Vinlander bylaws. So regardless of what Messer said, right, Messer said, oh, the Vinlanders wouldn't have a problem with it. But is this the real reason why they had a stomp on sight out on him? Because according to Taylor, the Vinlanders would have a problem with it. So, because it was found out that Messer had fathered a child with an African-American woman, and it was against the Vinlander bylaws, Messer's probate status was then pulled. She says that Messer refused to turn over his Vinlander items, and that is why the SOS was put out on him. She stated that Patrick Westphal eventually came to Rushville, and she gave him Messer's Vinlander items. Dear God. Taylor had gone to Vinlander meetings with Messer held at McKinley's house in Indianapolis. Well, I hope they didn't sit on the couch. That's all I'm going to say. This is where she met Patrick Westphal and Brad Holder. She talked more with Westphal and liked his girlfriend, Rachel Miller. She did not talk much to Holder. She found him creepy and he made her uncomfortable. During one meeting that Holder did not attend, the other Vinlanders brought up that they heard Holder was a possible suspect in a murder in Florida. I didn't know this. They did not want Holder hanging around with them anymore due to the possibility it may bring heat down on them. She said during the meetings, the men would separate from the females and drink from a horn during ceremonies. Okay. Taylor said that Messer was introduced to the Vinlanders by someone called Brian James. She said that Messer claimed to be part of the Hammerskins when he was younger. She said that Messer told her he had done horrible things and should be in prison. He was never specific in details. She knows that Westphal is from Delphi, and she assumed that Holder was from the same area as Westphal introduced Holder to the Vinlanders. She said both Westphal and Holder had brought their kids to the Vinlander meetings at one time or another. She witnessed the kids taking part in the ceremonies and drinking from the horn. Taylor confirmed that her and Messer saw news reports of the Delphi murders later in the week on TV. She confirmed she made the statement that she hoped Holder and Westphal were not involved. I mean, why would you think? You know, if you hear that two girls are murdered, why would you instantly jump that Holder and Westphal were involved? Unless you knew that they were violent people. Or was it because they talked about doing sacrifices? Is that the reason? Messer also took a guy named Josh Stevenson to the meetings. There was a male by the name of Dougie that hung around the Vinlanders. She described Dougie as lower functioning mentally and was not all there. They took advantage of Dougie to perform menial tasks for them. Dougie stopped coming around the Vinlanders after another group gave him a jacket and some patches. So they're using these lower functioning people, aren't they? They're just using them. Like Elvis Fields would be considered lower functioning. Right? He's not all there. She said this was the final straw for her regarding Messer spending too much time with them. After they went to a Vinlander event in March 2017, just a month after the murders. This was when they decided to tell McKinley about the mixed-race child Messer had. Taylor stated that Westfall and Messer were like brothers. She claimed Messer was friends with Holder, but not to the extent he was with Westfall. She states that they communicated using Facebook Messenger. She said that Westfall cut ties with Messer after he was kicked out of the Vinlanders. However, she did not know if they started talking again after her and Messer broke up. She states that all the Vinlanders were into Odinism. She claims that Holder and Westfall talked about making their own weapons in the form of knives and hammers. Towards the end of this interview, Taylor stated that her and Messer were fighting around Valentine's Day in 2017, so around the time of the murders. The fight was due to the fact that Messer was up there with the Vinlanders around Valentine's Day and did not acknowledge the day or want to be with her around that day. She said they had a series of texts during this time when they were arguing. Taylor said that Messer told her he had shot someone in the hand on the east side of Indianapolis. She says Messer never talked about the Delphi murders with her. Since their breakup, she does not know if he had reconnected with Westfall or Holder. She said that Messer had a fake Facebook page where he was posing as a Chinese guy. He had told her he had killed before, but says he lies so much she does not know if this is true or not. Taylor is currently pending on counterfeiting charges as a result for the January 2018 search warrant in which Messer was charged with meth-related charges and currently on home detention. On October 31st, 2018, a search warrant was obtained out of Division 3, Vigo County Superior Court for Taylor's phone that is in custody at Rushville PD, which was seized in the January 2018 search warrant. This is the same phone Taylor was referencing when she was fighting with Messer around Valentine's Day. The warrant was executed and the cell phone was downloaded at the THPD technician's office. The download only produced communications data, text, Facebook Messenger, email from November 17 to January 2018. The download did produce 5 different phone numbers for Johnny Messer in the cell phone contact list. 3 audio recordings have been pulled from the cell phone download. These downloads were pulled from the ambient listening program where Hornaday was listening and recording Messer's conversations and phone calls. Dear God. In 2 of the calls, Messer is offering money to other people to find someone so they can be injured or killed. The other call is Messer bragging about holding a suspect hostage and shooting them at his house. He later releases them and takes them home after taking their AK-47. It's believed that the victim's last name is Tillington and they live in Shelbyville. Good God. Good God. All these people should be in jail. We've got Richard Allen, who'd never committed a crime in his life, serving 130 years. And we've got all these people running around and about that are just violent to the core. November 8th, 2018, Messer reported to Community Corrections in Rush County for a scheduled appointment. Assistant Chief Todd Click went through Messer's cell phone per his Fourth Amendment agreement. Click observed that Messer is still downloading photos and following various Vinlander members. He also observed the following text from Taylor to Messer. No text was sent after both had been interviewed. You have an SOS out and they only know my address. If they told us that they'd already questioned Brad and Patrick, what makes you think they didn't tell them they were going to question us? Messer replies, lol, get mad for no reason. Don't know what to make of that. On 11/20/2018, Taylor Hornaday was again interviewed by Ferretti and Murphy at Rushville PD. Taylor was asked how she recalled arguing with Messer during Valentine's weekend 2017. She states that in 2015 she had a miscarriage at 21 weeks. Her and Messer then had a child on June 2nd, 2016. In December 2016, she became pregnant again. While pregnant during Valentine's Day weekend, she states that they were moving from one residence to another. She was angry with Messer because he was with the Vinlanders during this time. She states she had to pack up all their stuff while pregnant and be responsible for their under 1-year-old son. Oh, I'd be pissed off at that as well. He's running around and about with the Vinlanders. She's pregnant with a baby and she's like packing her stuff to move. No, that would not go down well with me. She does not recall if Messer came home before, on, or after February 14th, 2017. So basically his whereabouts can't be accounted for on February 13th. Taylor said that Messer was driving her 2001 Chevy Red Suburban. She recalls being even more angry with him because she noticed something like blood on the side of the vehicle. She remembers needing to take the vehicle to a car and using the tire brush to get it off. Car wash, and using a tire brush to get it off. At the time, she assumed Messer had hit an animal. Her only recollection of the time period is 30 to 60 days after Valentine's Day that she noticed the substance. Okay, so it could have been on their ages then, couldn't it? Taylor believes that Holder was a Vinlander probate with Westphal and Messer, but he did not make it in. Taylor confirmed that Messer used Facebook pages and one of the names he was using was CHORLEY. She states that Westphal used the FB name of Jaeger Turtzen. She was unaware of any FB pages used by Holder. Well, he's got a lot. Taylor was not familiar with Elvis Fields. Taylor states that Messer did know Rod Abrams. She said that Messer and his mother currently live in the house where Abrams used to live at. She said Messer and his friends called Abrams Rod Chester, pronouncing it in a way that I assume makes fun of Abrams' speech. Well, dear God, it's like a soap opera. All right. So we've now got someone called Brittany Odom. Again, someone I've never heard of. So this will be Todd Click interviewing, Assistant Chief from the Rushville PD. That's Todd Click. Interviews Brittany Odom. Odom was a subordinate meth dealer, I assume, under Messer prior to his January 2018 arrest. Odom states that Messer talked about the Vinlanders often, and he was worried about his affiliation with them and would it affect his sentencing. Well, he needs not worry. He needs not worry because all the flaming guards are into it as well. So if he goes to jail, he's not going to be, he's going to be revered as being a Vinlander. It's not going to affect him at all. She said that Messer mentioned the city of Delphi several times, and she believed that someone that was into recording music with Messer was from there. Don't know who that is. She did not know the name of this person. She recalls that Messer stated that a guy he was trying to record music with in Delphi had his name and picture in an article that was published on the internet. Messer's pic and name were also in the same article. The Anti-Defamation League published an article on their website about white supremacist groups. Yeah, seen this. I did a video about this when I found it. Messer's and Westphal's names and pictures are shown in the article. The ADL is linked with the Southern Poverty Law Center site. She recalls specifically the name Delphi because she had never heard of it before. Odom states that she heard they were involved in 9 murders, but did not know the specifics. Odom confirmed that Messer and Hardaday, whatever her name is, would argue and fight because Messer would spend so much time with those guys. Dear God. Now we've got an interview with someone called Jessie Marie. Jessie declined to give her full name. She is fearful of reprisal. Jessie states that her daughter dated Logan Holder prior to Logan dating Abby. So this is someone with a child who dated Logan Holder. Jessie said they interacted with Logan while he was dating her daughter and after they broke up. Logan told her that his mother was murdered, then stated she died from cancer. I don't know what's the truth. I don't know what the truth is of that. Jessie later found out his mother was alive. Dear God. So Logan is lying. He's a little liar from Liarville. Says his mother's murdered, then says she died of cancer, when actually she's alive. Okay. Jessie communicated with Logan after the murders of Abby and Libby. Logan claimed that Abby was haunting him, I assume, and he was seeing her in his house. He also stated she was moving his shoes and their box around and messing with his TV. Okay. Logan claims his family was buccal swabbed, so DNA tested. Logan states that Abby was killed on their 2-month anniversary and that they only met in person once in Delphi. Logan states that he and Abby had no communication on February 12th or 13th. Well, isn't that convenient? Isn't that just convenient? Yeah, murdered, no cancer. Oh, wait, it's a miracle. Yeah, it's crazy. These people, I tell you. Jessie stated that Brad Holder and Patrick Westphal were in an Odin cult. She also states that Holder and Westphal were in an army unit with Travis Sandifer. She states that Travis is related to Marvin and Brett Sandifer. She states Marvin is friends with... Oh, here we've got some really nice connections. Okay. She states Marvin is friends with Ron Logan and Brett is friends with the Patties. Okay. Interesting. She states that Brett has a son named Bryden, who is friends with Abby and Libby. Jessie states that Travis was also into Asatru and Odinism. Now, the Sandifers that live near the bridge, very close to the bridge. It's actually the Sandifers camera that catches Brad Weber's vehicle, like coming home at like 2:45. It's their camera. Okay. She also states that Abby hung around and did odd jobs around a Pizza King in Flora, Indiana. She states that the Pizza King is located across the street from a house that burnt down and killed 4 small children in November of 2016. It's all tying together now. Exactly. How can Judge Gull say there's no nexus here? The jury needed to hear this. The jury needed to hear from all these people. It's not up to Richard Allen's defense team to solve this crime, but they should have been allowed to introduce these alternate theories to the jury. There is plenty to go on here that connects these reprobates with Delphi and Abby and Libby. It's not the defense's fault that this wasn't sufficiently investigated. The only people that investigated it to within an inch of their lives, and in fact, Greg Ferenczi lost his life during this investigation. It's not Richard Allen's defense team's fault that these guys who investigated this really thoroughly were not believed and it wasn't followed up. None of it was followed up by Unified Command, like Jerry Holman and his cronies and what's his face, Doug Carter. It's all tying together. And not only the Delphi murders, but also the Flora fire is tying in. I truly believe that Westfall is behind, has some connection with the Flora fires. And if you don't want me talking about you, Patrick, sue me. And no, I'm not Scottish, by the way. Okay. She states that Abby and Joe Sandifer... What? She states that Anne Abbey, not the Abbey, and Joe Sandifer owned the Pizza King. An open source internet check shows that Marvin Sandifer, commenting on police searching Ron Logan's residence regarding the murders to a media outlet. An open source internet check also shows Abby Sandifer, all right, so not Abby Williams, but Abby Sandifer, is a Pizza King owner, talking to a media outlet regarding the Flora fire and the Delphi murders. Jessie provides the Facebook Messenger exchanges between her and Logan Holder. A Facebook search for Bryden Sandifer's page shows a photo of Bryden making the Vinlander hand sign. Jessie states that Marvin Sandifer lives just up the street from Ron Logan. Yes, he lives at the opposite side of the bridge. There's a Sandifer property on the opposite side of the bridge. So on the south side of the bridge. And it's just down the road from where Abby lived. Abby lived on that road. So they all know each other. To say that there's no nexus is just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. So we've got another interview now with Brittany Odom. Odom was a subordinate methamphetamine dealer under Johnny Messer prior to his arrest in January 2018. She was also pending on current meth charges. Odom is a resident of Rushville, Indiana. Odom recalls Messer always talking about his association with the Vinlander Social Club. She has heard of him referring to the town of Delphi in the past. She recalls remembering it because she had never heard of Delphi, Indiana before. She thinks that Messer would refer to making music with a guy from Delphi, Indiana, told her that he, Messer, and the guy from Delphi both had their names and pictures mentioned in an article about racist groups. The Anti-Defamation League did a pull, so we know that. We've read that. Interview of Decima. Is this? This is copied. This needs a thorough grammar check because this is copied. We've got Jessie Marie, and then we've got Jessie Marie again. Yeah, that's just a repeat. That's a copy and paste error, that is. All right, so we're moving on. Or is there more there? Yeah. No, that's different, isn't it? States that the Pizza King was across the street. She did not know if they were related to the previous mention of Sandifer's. So there's a little bit extra here, I think. Hold on. Yeah, there's a bit extra in this one. Okay, so daughter dated Abby. Daughter dated Logan before he dated Abby. She stated that Travis was also into Odinism. She stated that Travis is related to Brett and Marvin. Marvin lives down the road and that they are friends. She also states that Brett Sandifer has a son named Bryden, so we know that, who was friends with both Abby and Libby. Jessie went on to say that Abby worked small jobs, did chores at the Flora Pizza King. She states that the Pizza King was across the street from the house that burned down, so we've read that. She states that an Abby and a Joe on the Pizza King. She did not know if they were related to the previously mentioned Sandefurs. An open source internet check shows Marvin Sandefur gave an interview. Open source internet check also shows that Abby Sandefur gave an interview as the owner of Pizza King in relation to the Flora and Delphi murders. Okay, so it's the same information, just slightly worded differently. All right, interview of Brandon Mansfield. Never heard of this person either. Mansfield was interviewed by Click after an arrest for possession of marijuana. Mansfield stated that in the summer of 2016, he lived in the same apartment complex as Messer. He said that Messer was attempting to talk to him about attending Vinlander meetings. He stated he believes he met Patrick Westphal one time at the apartment complex. Westphal was in the company of Messer at the time. All right, so he doesn't have any information about the murders. It's just confirming a link between Messer and Westphal. Another one from Taylor. Taylor called yesterday, so 1/28/2019, stating she was cleaning her house and found a phone that she wanted to turn into us. Rushville PD Assistant Chief Todd Click went over to Taylor's house and he picked up the phone. Click opened the phone and noted that the phone number is redacted. Also found 3 Google Voice numbers being used on this phone. So one from Delphi, one from Roan, and one from Covington. One from Delphi. The blank shows being activated with the Delphi prefix out of bandwidth.com, LLC, Indiana, whatever that is, whatever town that is, which is most commonly Google Voice. The Roan and the Covington are also activated from bandwidth.com. Taylor believes Messer was able to hide the phone when they were issuing the search warrant. So this is a secret phone that he has like Google Voice stuff on. Okay, interesting. The phone has been in Taylor's house since that time, and Messer has not lived there since the search warrant a year ago. On 2/14/2017, so the day after the murders, Westphal makes contact with a blank, which was activated using bandwidth.com. The number is registered out of Newcastle, Indiana. Johnny Messer used to live in Newcastle, and according to Taylor, still has friends and family there. Newcastle is 24 miles north of Rushville. Interesting. Interesting. So we've got Messer with these Google Voice things, and then we've got the day after the murders, Westphal making contact with one of these phone things. Well, isn't that convenient? Isn't that convenient? Now we've got Amber Holder, who's Brad Holder's ex. And she's also a whistleblower that we've heard quite a bit about. She's separated from Brad Holder, and this is from 3/1/2019. Amber was introduced to Brad Holder by a guy she met online, shown in knows as Will. Will gave her the creeps, and she was uncomfortable around him. Will tried to get her to support some kind of white supremacist group, unknown name. Will was living with Brad Holder at the time that they met, and after she moved in with Brad, she kicked Will out of the house. Good for her. She met Brad at the end of February 2017, so just shortly after the murders. And they were married on March 22nd, 2017, which she didn't waste much time, did she? So she knew him less than a month before she married him. That's a recipe for disaster, if ever I heard one. However, Brad filed for divorce last month. However, she filled out the paperwork. Amber, we don't know when this was written. There's no date on it because this is just the text, like the front page is missing. Amber stated that Brad is generally an outgoing person with a high ego of himself. She stated that he's an alcoholic and drinks a fifth of whiskey or rum a night. She states that Brad would drink anything he could get his hands on. He was working at a landfill operating heavy machinery in Buffalo, Indiana. She believes that he recently got fired for not showing up for work. He would usually leave for work around 4 a.m. and get off the clock around 2 p.m. later if overtime was required. Amber states she is a practicing pagan, as a true stroke Odinist. She was practicing paganism long before she met Brad. Amber stated that Brad refused to speak about Patrick Westfall and she's never met Patrick. She stated that Brad spoke of Patrick one time when he was intoxicated and said he and Patrick got into a fight and they no longer speak to each other. He told her that he and Westfall were in the woods near a river conducting a ritual. One of them said or did something the other did not agree with, and they no longer talked to each other. Now, Patrick Westfall gives a completely different story to this one. Completely different. One of them, where we are. She said the river was near Patrick's house. Of course it was. And where was Patrick living at the time of the murders? Oh, Delphi. What's the river that runs through Delphi? It's not actually a river. It's Deer Creek. It then joins the Wabash River as you go out of Delphi. It joins the Wabash River. Oh. Okay. Note, Brad has a Facebook post with him and Patrick together in Delphi on January 21st, 2017. Amber met Brad in late 2017. Okay. And this was after Brad and Patrick broke up. Their relationship became strained and broke up. Straight after the murders. Interesting. Amber states that Patrick used smoke as part of his Asatru, Odinism, paganism, religious rituals. She said that Brad would use a cigarette to produce the smoke, incense or sage, if available to him, during his rituals. Brad would also cut his hand between his thumb and index finger knuckles during his rituals. He would let the cut bleed and try to find Asatru rune formations in the blood as he bled. What? Dear me. He was always trying to get her to cut herself the same way during the rituals they performed together. She refused every time except one time when she allowed him to cut her hand. She has a scar from this cut. She stated that she and Brad often went to the woods to pray to Odin and other Asatru gods. Amber said that Brad keeps his guns at his father's house. She described them as hunting rifles, shotguns, and handguns. She never saw any guns in the house while she was living there. She stated that they did have numerous knives in the house. She said she took most of the knives with her when she left Brad and the house. Amber then showed me a knife she had taken it from a cigar box. They then motioned for me to look behind me and gestured towards a bucket sitting on a shelf containing numerous knives, ranging from a small machete to a Bowie-style knife and smaller knives. But they were there if Unified Command feels that they may be relevant. Amber said that Brad also constructed his own knives from scratch in a style used by ancient Nordic Viking tribes. She did not take any of these with her when she left. Amber states that Logan Holder really did like Abby and was in the midst of the grieving process when she moved in with Brad. She stated that Logan's maternal mother, well, it's not going to be his paternal mother, is it? His mother was not sympathetic to Logan and told him to get over it. Great mothering there. Fantastic. She stated that Brad attempted to comfort Logan at times, but his personality made him ineffective at it. She stated that her 7-year-old, Riker, was kicked out of school for being physically abusive to other kids. She stated that Logan and his younger brother, Lane, would watch her and Brad pray and conduct ceremonies to their Asatru gods, but they rarely participated. Logan would ask to participate only because they consumed alcohol as part of the ceremonies, but she would not allow him. Amber stated one night at the dinner table, Logan was upset and in a mood over the murder of Abby Williams. This was the only time Brad brought up the murders around her, and he stated that he'd been trying to figure out who killed the girls, but was unable to do so. He then stated that the police in Logansport needed to do something about the human trafficking around the city. She stated that Brad often spoke about human trafficking. Amber said that Logan told her that Anna Williams was aware of him dating Abby. She stated that Logan and Abby were not sexually active, and Logan was caught losing his virginity to a girl in his grandfather's church after the murders. She stated that Logan having sex in a church made Brad very angry. She stated that since the murders, Logan had steadily deteriorated mentally and emotionally as time passed. He almost dropped out of school and has been getting more angry. He signed up to join the Marines, but has not left for basic training yet. That's really sad. That's really sad. Amber is unaware of any white supremacy groups Brad might be associated with. She stated that while they were together, Brad rarely hung out with anyone. She thinks Brad may have been hiding secrets from her and thinks he may have been visiting his first ex-wife while she was still with him. It is like a soap opera. She said that Brad and Logan both admit to speaking with the police after the murders of Abby and Libby. Second interview with Amber. She said that she went to Brad Holder's house today. She took her son, Riker, to see Brad and Logan. While Riker was upstairs with Logan, she said she made up a story to Brad stating that her friend had a date with Patrick Westfall and wanted to know more about him. She stated Brad became very nervous and told her she needed to stay away from Westfall or she would end up dead. She said that Brad told her Westfall and his crew were responsible for the murders of the girls in Delphi and the fire that killed 2 girls. Actually, a fire that killed 4 girls is likely something to do with them, in my humble opinion. Sue me, Patrick, if you want. Okay. I asked her if she knew of the fires in Flora that killed 4 girls, and she said she was not familiar with any fires that killed any children until Brad mentioned it today. She said Brad may have been talking about that fire, but had the number of killed wrong. She said Brad told her that Westfall and his crew had friends in several states, and they have no problem killing race traitors it should be. I asked her to clarify race traitors, and she said she believed it meant people who mix with other races, you know, like black bears breeding with polar bears. That kind of thing they absolutely do not approve of. Amber said that Brad told her that Westfall and his people killed Abby and Libby because one of their mothers was mixing with other people outside of the mother's race. I asked Amber to clarify mixing, and she stated that it's believed to mean having sex or dating someone who isn't white. And that includes Spanish people. They don't like Spanish people either, only Europeans. So Spain, according to Patrick Westfall, is no longer in Europe. Make that make sense. Amber said that Brad told her Westfall belonged to a group called Vinlanders and 22. Brad told her that Westfall had many people backing him up and powerful friends. Yeah. Well, yeah, because this guy seems to just be getting away with everything. She said that Brad was very nervous while telling her these things and was whispering like he was fearful someone else would hear him. Logan and Riker were upstairs. She said that Brad was also fidgety when discussing Westfall. Amber said throughout the conversation, Brad was constantly telling her to stay away from Westfall. He also told her that Patrick had killed a lot of people and it didn't matter if they were innocent or not. Amber truly believed Brad was scared of Westfall. Prior to Amber leaving, she said that Brad told her to stay off Westfall's radar, and I can only protect you so much if you keep asking questions. He also told her that if Westfall found out she was married to him, she would be in danger. Brad also questioned her on why Westfall would be going on a date, that he was under the impression that Westfall was married or engaged to someone. Note, I noted to Amber in her original statement, she said Brad told her that he and Westfall got into a fight over one of them saying or doing something wrong while conducting an Asatru ritual together in the woods near a river. She stated that Brad may have just told her that to avoid telling her the real reason why he and Westfall are no longer friends. There's a lot there. That's a lot of information, a lot of interviews, and yet all of this was completely ignored by Unified Command. This should have been, alongside with Ron Logan, should have been their top lead. This should have been their number one set of suspects, without a doubt. General points of interest. Westfall appears 10 times in pictures that Holder posts on Facebook prior to February 13th, 2017. After then, Westfall does not appear in any of Holder's posted photos. Elvis Fields knows Messer, who was a Vinlander probate and are friends with Holder and Westfall. Messer currently lives in a house that Rod Abrams once lived in. Fields and Abrams were roommates in February 2017. According to family and friends, Elvis Fields is overtly racist. Westfall, Holder, and Messer are involved with the Vinlanders in 2017, February. Abrams had a prior arrest in Florida for assault with a deadly weapon, which was a knife. Note all records with Osceola County regarding this case have been destroyed due to time lapse of crimes. January 1998. Well, it's not that long ago. I suppose it is. Abrams lies about where Fields, Ned Smith, and himself were on February 13th, 2017, said they were in Muncie, Indiana, visiting a friend in the hospital. Fields' cell phone, stationary and not used at his residence from 10:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Ned Smith's cell phone mobile around towers in Rushville as well. So they weren't in Muncie visiting a friend. They were in, well, their phones were in Rushville. Where they were, however, we don't know. But I bet you any money they weren't in Muncie visiting somebody. Westfall posts videos of him on Facebook cutting down ash trees in a forest near a creek. Holder's son, Logan Holder, dated Abby Williams. Logan introduced Abby to Libby in December 2016. Logan meets Abby in person face-to-face in January 2017. In Delphi, Abby and Libby are killed in February 2017. Holder posts stick symbols on Facebook, very similar to the crime scene. And also remember, we've got Brad Holder drawing the painting, doing the painting of the hanging man. That's a similar pose to the pose that Abby was found in. We've got on Brad Holder's Facebook, we've got this mock-up of two women, like dead in the woods with sticks over them. There's that as well. There's too much. It's too much. There's too much. Elvis Fields mimics various random posts that Holder puts on his Facebook page. So Elvis Fields is a wannabe. Elvis Fields is a wannabe. He's vulnerable. He's violent. He's psychotic a lot of the time. He's racist. Put that together with him wanting to join this gang, and you've got somebody who potentially is going to do something when they're told to do it. Messer is constantly using different phones. Drug dealing experience provides him with knowledge of countermeasures used by law enforcement for cell phone evidence gathering. Organised white supremacy group involvement and past military combat experience may give Holder and Westfall possible cell phone countermeasures experience as well. Holder and Westfall make their own homemade Viking-style knives. Photos of Holder's Facebook posts available. These include stick configurations, various Asatru symbols, including his own paintings that are similar to the crime scene. Yes, the hanging man. Comparison photos of Elvis Fields mimicking Brad Holder's Facebook posts. Photos containing Holder, Westfall, and Messer with Vinlanders. Note, it was assumed that Libby was the focus of the motive for the murders. However, there is the Elvis Fields statement to Mary Jacobs that Abby was a troublemaker and a pain in the ass. It was also assumed the statements meant that Abby was uncooperative from abduction point to murder site. However, the statement could indicate there was some type of precursor event or situation involving Abby and the above-mentioned subjects that the troublemaker and pain in the ass statement was referencing. Final note. This is a continuous document that is updated as the investigation continues. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So this is a supplemental report that was put together by Kevin Murphy, who was one of the 3 law enforcement officials. Murphy was a state trooper. And then we have Greg Ferenczi, who worked for the FBI. And then we had Todd Click, who was the assistant chief of Rushville PD. So these guys are not like, you know, wet behind the ears. These are not little puppies. These are seasoned investigators who truly believed that they're somewhere in all of this bunch of criminals and reprobates, there was the answer to the Delphi murders. And they kept feeding the information they were finding to Unified Command, and it just got ignored. Just got ignored. So Judge Gould, in not allowing this information, or at least some of this information, to be told to the jury in the Richard Allen trial, is one of the reasons why the jury were not told the truth. They were not told the truth. But isn't it interesting that there's links between these Odinism guys, the Sandifers, who live nearby, and Ron Logan, who lives nearby? Deary me. Well, I think we all see what's going on, don't we? I think we all see what's going on here. And it ain't pretty. Yes. All of you are watching and have not subscribed. Do it now. Do it now. I do work on a lot of cases. And I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I couldn't resist doing that just once more. But I do know that nearly 50% of people who watch my channel do not subscribe. I'd be closer to 200,000 subscribers if everybody who watched my channel subscribed. So there's that. Got to keep plugging it. Got to keep plugging it. It's just a milestone for any YouTuber. So anyway, what do you think? What do you think of this? This document? I think it's very, very telling. And there's some stuff in there that I did not know. And the details that we didn't know, I think, are the things that actually tie it together. And yet we've got Richard Allen, who wasn't connected to any of these people, who has been framed. Absolutely 100% framed. It took me a long time to get there. But anyhow. All right, so we got Brian Kohlberger's sentencing hearing starting in just under 2 hours. I was going to stream it, as I said at the beginning of this, but I'm not going to, because I've got to go out for an hour, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, starting to stream once it's already started, it doesn't make any sense. And there's like about 5 million people streaming it anyway, so, you know, there's that. But it'd be interesting. To hear the families. It's going to be heartbreaking to hear what they've got to say to Brian Kohlberger. But yeah, another sad one. But anyway, I'm going to go now. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you so much to those that donated earlier on in the live stream. Let's have a look. We got Paper Chaser, member for 33. We got Stardust Shorty, member for 33. We got Blissful, who gifted 5 memberships. Daughter of Scotland, who has been a member for 47 months, nearly 4 years. We got Mimi, who also joined. And we got Carol, who gifted £2. So thank you all. Thank you, as always, to the mods. And we're going to play out with this in a second. Well, that didn't go exactly to plan. I was just about to click sign off and my computer went dead. So I had to go and run and get a charger. Dear me. But I had to come back. I had to come back to tell you and to close out the live stream. So there's that. All right. I must remember to charge it before I start a live stream. Like this computer that I'm using is quite old, so the battery goes dead quite quick. But anyway, we're going to play out with this, and I'm definitely going this time.
It's time for you guys to start being journalists.
Before an angry Andrew Baldwin left the courthouse, 13 News overheard him speaking to Richard Allen's wife, saying, "It ain't over. The world's watching. The world sees what's going on."